Throughout the centuries, Western civilization has undergone enormous change. The adoption of Christianity, the Enlightenment, the Industrial Revolution. These transformations altered the course of history. But the Western world is currently undergoing what is arguably the most significant change to date. Our ruling elites have decided that the white European people have no special claim to their nations. They have no right to remain a majority in their homelands, or even have their culture remain dominant. Instead, Western nations must be transformed into international zones, a mishmash of all races, all cultures, all lifestyles, and all religions. After thousands of years, the legacy of the European people will come to an end as our homelands undergo this final transformation. China for the Chinese, India for the Indians, and Somalia for the Somalis. But as for the nations built by white Western people, these are to become multinational marketplaces belonging to everyone and no one. But to fully realise this transformation, first, the dominant culture is gradually dismantled by forcing the white majority to make ever-increasing concessions. White people must accommodate, fund and promote the foreign cultures, religions and customs. And through mass immigration, eventually the majority, founding stock of the nation, becomes a minority. This has already happened in some of the biggest cities such as London, Los Angeles and Toronto, where in a very short length of time, whites have found that they are a minority in the cities their forefathers built. But will this benefit us? Will first world nations improve with the mass importation of third world people? Will your grandchildren benefit when they are one of the only white kids in class? Will the streets be safer? Will there be prosperity, security, cooperation and unity? Well, if you were to even ask these questions, you will almost certainly be accused of being a racist, a bigot, a white supremacist, or maybe even a fascist neo-Nazi. But of course, it isn't racist for an African person to prefer his own culture and be surrounded by his own people in his homeland. It isn't racist for an Asian person to want their nation preserved for their own descendants. It isn't racist for a Hispanic person to want his nation to be a special place just for his people. Likewise, there is nothing wrong if white people feel the same as the African, the Asian and the Hispanic, but for their own people, culture and nation. It doesn't mean that they hate other races, it means that they prefer their own people and culture and want to have self-determination. The accusation of racism is a slur designed to stop white people ever working in their group interests. For whites to be accused of racism, often all it takes is for white people to be a majority in a certain area, such as a school, a profession or a neighbourhood. Now it's claimed that an area can be too white, as though whiteness is a disease that needs to be treated and the cure is diversity. But not only are we accused of racism as individuals, but all our history, our culture and values are also accused of being racist. And so we will often hear calls to tear down our statues, to change our national anthem or the flag, to ban certain holidays and celebrations, because these things are considered to be the legacy of racist white people. Ask yourself, when was the last time you ever heard of white people being spoken of in positive terms in the media, academia, or in politics? When was the last time you heard white people being commended as a group for their contributions to civilization, their inventiveness, their compassion and tolerance? No, it would seem that we are the only race which it is acceptable to criticize and denigrate. Under multiculturalism, you can praise any racial group in the world except white people, and you cannot criticize any racial group in the world except white people. Why then should we support this social experiment of multiculturalism? It's a system where every culture is celebrated and promoted except the white Western cultures, which are attacked and dismantled. Well, we never voted on this radical policy of multiculturalism. It was forced upon us through politics, schooling and the media. And if it were so beneficial, it wouldn't require billions of dollars of propaganda and the silencing of critics. We were not given a say because the answer likely would have been no. No, we do not want to become minorities in the homelands our forefathers built. We do not want to have millions of people imported from the third world. We do not want to have our culture attacked and dismantled. We do not want to be constantly accused of racism, taught to hate our history and feel ashamed to be white, told we must move aside to let others take over. If we were asked, we would have told them, we do not want multiculturalism. Our ancestors didn't fight and die so that someday our homelands could be opened for all the peoples of Earth to come and take what they want. They endured unimaginably tough times and worked hard so that their descendants, their own people, would inherit the nation. White people have the right, just like every other peoples on Earth, to have a homogeneous homeland, to be surrounded by their own people and their own culture, and to be allowed to develop on their own accord. The forceful mixing of all peoples on Earth cannot result in peaceful, unified nations. And an economy based on constant immigration and population growth is not sustainable. White people only make up around 10% of the world population. This 10% are the only people on Earth who are being asked to eradicate racism by putting their own interest last and denying that they are in any way a group with a shared history, culture and identity. They are the only people on Earth told that their ancestral homelands belong to the entire world and that they have no right to remain a majority in their nation, their city or even their neighbourhood. They are the only ones told that to achieve world peace, whites must breed with non-whites and create coffee-coloured children. They are the only people told that their demise is justice for the crimes of their ancestors. But this ideology of multiculturalism, of racial justice, diversity and equality always comes at the expense of white people. In order to oppose this, we have to let go of our white guilt and be brave enough to defend our people and stand up for our interests, just as every other racial group on Earth does. It's not only that we have a right to do so, but we have a responsibility to both our ancestors and our future descendants. We must not allow our legacy to come to an end.